Hey everyone, Mr. Planasek here. Welcome to your first class recording for Honors Physical Science. I'm going to try to do this every once in a while to let you guys look at some things that I think are pretty straightforward or that I think you might need to practice a little bit more in class. I'm going to give you guys a chance to get some of the basics down at home, and then when you come to school, we can work on getting the details down. Or in this case, I'm going to show you guys how to make the graph, but then when you come to school, I'll be here to help you actually make your graphs. So instead of spending our time with me showing you how to make a graph, I'm going to show you how to make the graph in the video and then let you be here and practice it, and I'm going to help you practice it here. Okay? So the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to open your graphing program. Here at school, we use Excel. On the desktop, there is a link to Excel, so most of you probably have that. If you don't, you can use the Start menu, you can go to Programs, you can go to Microsoft Office, and you can open up Excel that way as well. I really don't care how you open Excel, it's totally up to you. So I realize that some of you are not Windows people, some of you are not PC people, and you might have Macs or something like that. Macs have a graphing program. I'm not as familiar with it as I am with Excel, but I could probably help you with it if you have it here. Obviously, if you don't have it here at school, I can't really help you with it. But all of the things that you can do on Excel, you should be able to do on a Mac as well. You just have to make sure you know how to find it. Okay? So when we're making a graph, I'm going to show you today how to make a bar graph or a column graph. Really, they're kind of the same thing. It's just one's turned on its side. So first thing that we need is some data. I went online and I found some data regarding hurricane landfalls that have hit the United States since I think 1881, if I remember correctly from the website where I got it from. So this shows all of the different states that have had a hurricane hit them. It tells you the total number of hurricane landfalls, and then it breaks it down by categories. What are the most severe ones, and things of those nature, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a column graph or a bar graph to compare the number of hurricanes that have hit these different states. So the first thing you have to do is you need to highlight the data that you want to make a graph out of. So I'm just going to start here on Texas. I'm going to click, I'm going to hold, I'm going to drag it all the way down so that I have the names of all the states that have had hurricane landfalls and then the total number of hurricane landfalls in those states. All right. What was I going to say? Oh, before I tried to make a column graph that one of the columns was a year and the other one was the number of hurricanes that hit. But Excel got confused on that one because you're trying to make a bar graph basically out of two numbers. That's a different kind of graph. That's a scatter graph, and we'll talk about that more when we get closer to physics usually, because that's when scatter graphs kind of come up more than during chemistry. But anyway, at this point in time, all we've got is numbers, the names of the states that have had hurricanes hit them, and then the number of hurricanes that have hit them. Generally, a bar graph is good when you're comparing the same different measurements of the same question. For example, how many times have hurricanes hit this state? Right? It's the same question we keep asking over and over again. We just have different answers depending on which state. That's a good bar graph. So highlight those columns, or highlight those cells, the ones we want to make the graph out of. Then we're going to click the Insert tab up at the top. In the middle of the Insert tab, you'll see that there are tabs that highlight or show you the most common types of graphs that people make in Excel. We're going to go with the column graph, so we're going to hit the column graph tab. And if you hit the column graph tab, you'll notice that there's a bunch of different kinds of column graphs that can show up, right? I really don't care which one you use. If you want to make it look, snazzy with the pyramid, or you want to make it a cone or a cylinder, whatever. I'm kind of boring, so I'm just going to go for the 2D column. You want to stay away from these ones that are farther along the edge because they'll show you subsets within those measurements that we've taken. Like if I wanted to make a graph of how many different kinds or how many category 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 hurricanes have hit different places, then I might use one of those other ones. But right now, I just want to show the number of hurricanes that have hit. So right now, I'm just going to pick 2D column, this first tab right here, and you'll notice when the little box comes up, it says compare values across categories using vertical rectangles, which is what we want to do. So all I do is I just click it once, and boom, there it is. Okay. So we've got this column graph here, good for showing comparisons between the different states and how many times hurricanes have hit those states. But this isn't the end of our graph. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit bigger just because it's a little small, so I wanted to see things a little bit better. Okay, and you'll notice that the names of the states sort of got tilted on the side there. It expanded upwards. Okay, fine. When you click anywhere on your chart, it gets a little blue border around it like showing here. And up at the top, the green chart tools toolbar shows up. The green chart tools toolbar has 3 tabs: design, layout, format. Layout is really the one that we're going to use the most. So let's go to the layout. Okay. Over here on the side, it has below blue boxes series 1. That's basically telling me what this graph is all about, except I have another way of showing that. So when we only have like one bar graph and we're just comparing a bunch of different numbers of the same question, we don't need a legend. So I'm going to hit the legend tab right in the middle here, and then I'm going to hit turn off legend, and it gets rid of the legend, spreads my graph out to cover the whole window. We're good to go. Okay. Just to 2 tabs to the left of legend, chart title. That's an important one. All your charts got to have titles. So I click on that, and I have 2 options. I can do the above chart option or the center overlay title. I usually like the above chart. I just think it looks better, although center overlay title is fine. So I'm going to click above chart, and when I do, it throws in a generic chart title text box. So I click in there, either highlight it or get rid of it or whatever, and I'm going to say number of hurricane landfalls by state. And if I wanted to be a little bit more precise, I think it was 1881 through 2010. I don't know about that for sure. And if you're not for sure, then don't include it, right? I can just keep it as number of hurricane, let's do double L instead of double S. Number of hurricane landfalls by state. I can just keep it there, or if I want to throw in the timeline, whatever. Okay? Good so far. All right. Then next thing we need to do is directly to the right of the chart title tab is the axis title tab. Remember, we got to show what's going on here, and that means we have to label our axes so we know what's going on our axes. So primary horizontal title, we really only have one option: title below axis. Here on this graph with the bar graph, it's pretty self-explanatory, but we can put it in anyway. So there we're just going to put state. I actually typed it in up here in the cell toolbar here, but you could also go in, highlight where it says axis title. That showed up automatically. And if you do type it up here at the top, if you just hit enter, boom, it changes it to state. Then I'm going to go back to the axis titles tab, click it again, and now I'm going to go primary vertical axis title. You got a couple of options here. I really like where is it? There it is. I really like rotated title the best. I just think it looks the best and takes up the least amount of room. So I always click rotated title, and there it is, okay? And then we need to put what's on the y-axis in our graph. So that was going to be number of hurricane landfalls. Okay. Notice once again that that came up here in the cell toolbar, but when I hit enter, shows up on the side of my graph. Okay. So that's pretty much it as far as making a bar graph, and that's the first graph that we're going to start with. It's pretty straightforward, especially if you have only a couple sets of data. I mean, here I have a bunch of different states, but it's really not that much data. Now, if you want to, like for your lab, here what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Word real quick, and if you open up Word, you should see that there's a place where there's like a table that has dotted lines around it where you're supposed to put your graph. Okay, I'm just doing a little formatting here, so if that's bugging you, don't worry, it'll be over in a second. Okay, so all you need to do is you need to go back to your Excel graph and then just click anywhere on your graph, right? Notice if I click outside of the graph on the cells of the spreadsheet, the little the blue border goes away from around the graph. But if I click back anywhere on the graph, the blue border comes back around it. That's basically saying that I have the graph selected. So if I right click anywhere within that and the blue border is surrounding that graph, I'm just going to hit copy, and then I go back to my Word document and I'm just going to paste it inside that table, and there it is. Okay? So that's how you can get copies of your Excel graphs into your Word documents without having to shrink them down or cut and paste them or whatever. You just copy and paste it into the document and we're ready to go. If we go back here, sometimes we need hard copies of this graph. You need to include a hard copy of that graph with whatever lab it is you're doing or whatever. Okay, so you come up here to the start or the office button, click there, and you go print. And I always like to print preview, so I hit print preview, and you notice that it's just my graph. Okay, going back to the spreadsheet, remember that we have the blue border around it. So when you have the blue border around it, if you go to print, it's only going to print what's inside the blue border. If I click off of the graph and somewhere just back on the spreadsheet and the blue border goes away from my window or my graph window, and I go then to print and print preview, now it's going to take everything that I've typed in that spreadsheet and try and print it, including the numbers, which you can see here, what's happened to the end of my graph. Well, if I go on the next page, there it is. But I don't want that. I don't want my graph split up over 2 pages. It just looks shabby. So if you go, a lot of times I don't need to see the data table. You'll put the data table in the lab write-up somewhere earlier than the graph. So just click on the blue border, go to print preview. There it is. You're only seeing the graph. You're not seeing numbers. And then you can come up here to the top left and print it out. All right. Hope that works for you. Real basic as far as the bar graph goes. I think you'll see that as we move on, we'll increase degree of difficulty. But right now, this should get you through what you need for the biggest bubble project, but also for the pie graph that you have to make on the biggest bubble project. Obviously, you're going to use the pie function as opposed to the column function. Hope that helps. If you got any questions, ask them tomorrow in class.